What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View, here for your LA Rams versus Atlanta Falcons wild card preview and prediction video. I'm going to go over this game, talking about the Rams offense versus the Atlanta defense, the Atlanta offense versus the Rams defense. I'm going to go in depth on both sides of the ball and then give you my analysis and my thoughts on who is going to take this game, who is going to win, and who is going to advance to the divisional round, whether the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Philadelphia or the LA Rams traveling to Minnesota in the next round. This is my most anticipated game of this weekend. I think this is going to be the best overall matchup and the best game that I had the hardest time really figuring out who was going to win this game. This is a very close matchup from two teams that are on two different spectrums, I think, sides of the spectrum. The Atlanta Falcons, a team that went to the Super Bowl last year, a team that, first in offense last year, a team that's hit some little bit of bumps in the road, but once they've gotten to these playoffs, everybody's starting to believe in them as maybe a sleeper candidate to get back to the Super Bowl because of their experience, because of their ability, and because of their team talent. And on the other side, the LA Rams, the first scoring offense this season, is taking on the first scoring offense of last season. They're a young team coached by a young coach. They have a young quarterback. They have a star running back and just a lot of inexperience. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup in this game. And this is the Rams' first playoff game in LA since January 4th, 1986. For a reference on how long ago that was 20 days before Sean McVay even was born. So Sean McVay was not even born the last time the Rams played in Los Angeles in a playoff game. So that's pretty crazy. But LA, they're taking on Atlanta. Atlanta, the visitor here. And the Rams are 4-4 at home this season. Not a very good record, surprisingly enough. They did lose their last game of the season where they did not try against the San Francisco 49ers. So take that into account. As well as they played some very good teams at home. I'm not saying that's an excuse or anything, but they did lose, I believe, to 3 teams that were in the playoff race. I know one of them's Seattle. I believe another one is Minnesota. And I think another NFC team. I'm not quite sure. But they did lose 3 of those games to 3 good teams. They didn't just lose them to bad teams. The Atlanta Falcons, 5-3 on the road. Decent record overall. They were 5-3 both on the road and at home. Surprisingly enough, Atlanta is usually better at home. I think that they play with more energy, especially on defense at home. And it seems that crowd, as soon as the Atlanta Falcons get up on a team at home, they're able to pounce on them, especially with their fast defense, their pass rush. But on the road, it's a little bit different. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. 2 teams that are even at home and on the road in terms of records. The Falcons did beat Chicago, Detroit, the Jets, Seattle, and Tampa Bay on the road. And they lost to New England, New Orleans, and Carolina on the road. So 3 playoff teams they lost to. And the other teams, they actually didn't beat a playoff team on the road this season. So interesting thing if you're a Rams fan there. In terms of the points for each team, the Rams average about 26 at home, which is crazy because they actually average more on the road. They average 32 points away. So these are the 3 teams, actually. They lost to Minnesota, Seattle, and Philadelphia at home, including the 49ers. So those are 3 teams that one of them early in the season was considered a big playoff contender. Seattle, they lost a lot of their players down the stretch, especially on defense. Minnesota, Philadelphia, those are 3 of the top defenses in the NFL. So that is probably part of the reason why they only average 26 points compared to 32 on the road, while Atlanta averages 23 points on the road, which is slightly less than at home. So the Rams offense versus Atlanta's defense. Let's dive right into this. This is the most intriguing matchup for me of this game. You have Jared Goff, who owns the NFL's top passer rating since week 9. He's been very efficient with his passing. He hasn't been relied upon a ton to win the Rams games outright. It's been a lot of the Todd Gurley show. Jared Goff will hit a few screens every once in a while. He'll hit a couple big plays down the field. Sean McVay's done a really good job of managing his young quarterback. So it's going to be interesting because when Jared Goff has struggled this season, he struggled with pressure and with teams with really good defensive lines. Vikings, Eagles, Seahawks, those sort of teams, Jacksonville. So can the Falcons get pressure? That's the question. But for me, before the Falcons can get pressure, I think that they need to be able to slow down Todd Gurley. The number one key for the Falcons defense is being able to slow down Todd Gurley and being able to kind of force them out of their comfort zone. Their comfort zone is handing Todd Gurley and passing Todd Gurley the ball as many times as possible. I think that Atlanta needs to up their physicality on defense. They play a lot of zone. And that doesn't mean that they can't be physical. They have played more man than teams like Seattle and Jacksonville have with the same scheme. I've seen Atlanta, like against Carolina, they played a lot more man than zone than they typically play. And it's going to be interesting to see what Atlanta does in this game to try and take away the Rams, whether that's being really physical with him when he comes out to receive the ball and kind of hitting him right as soon as he leaves the backfield, trying to get as many bodies on him as possible, maybe chipping him and having two guys on him even out of the backfield. As a Patriots fan, I've seen them do this to Le'Veon Bell. A DN maybe hits him as soon as he gets out on the route, and then another guy, maybe a safety behind him, covers him out of the backfield. So they could do a lot of different things when covering Todd Gurley, but I think you need to be physical with these Rams right from the jump. They are the younger team. They're the less inexperienced team, and you need to intimidate them right off the bat. I think that's a way of going about this game. So then they need to force Goff into winning this game and into forcing Goff into making the plays for the Rams to win. They don't want to let the Rams do what they do, and that is Todd Gurley. Now, the Falcons are pretty good against the run. They're 9th in the NFL against the run, and actually against the pass, they have only allowed one quarterback this entire season to pass over 300 yards, and that was Aaron Rodgers. If you remember that game was a blowout, so Aaron Rodgers had a lot of time to come back and throw for a lot of yards. So considering that, the Falcons have one of the best defenses in the league. They're probably a top 10 defense. They're actually a better defense this year than they are on offense. You could only imagine if they had the same offense that they did last year with this defense, they would certainly be a Super Bowl contender. And actually, Atlanta's defense at the end of last year played a lot like it has now. Maybe it's a little bit better now, but it was really good at the end stretch there in the playoffs. The Falcons are probably man for man the fastest defense in the NFL. And I think that could have been the worst thing that the Rams could ask for. They would have rather played the Saints, the Seahawks, or the Panthers. I really believe that the Falcons are the worst matchup that the Rams could ask for in this first round because of the speed of the Falcons defense. Now, the young Rams offense, they're going to be playing guys like Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, and these guys are just 2-year pros, but they're amazing. I would put both of these guys in the Pro Bowl. These guys are both two of the best players at their position. They play linebacker and safety, respectively, and that's going to be crucial versus a guy like Todd Gurley, especially Deion Jones. At the same time, now talking about the Rams, I feel like Sean McVay is going to figure out some creative ways of beating this defense. He always does. He always will. But the thing about Sean McVay is he's played this defense multiple times this year. He hasn't played Atlanta, but he's played the same Seattle scheme that Quinn likes to utilize with this team. And he's played Seattle twice. He's played Jacksonville, who plays the same scheme. And he's played a couple other teams where he has had enough experience against this defense this year with this team in particular, where he knows where to go. He knows how to stress their assignments, and he knows how to get after it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Sean McVay does. I still think the Rams will be able to move the ball in this game. I do think that they will be able to run the ball at certain points, pass the ball at certain points, but I don't see them getting completely shut down, but I don't see them completely running the Atlanta defense off the field. I don't see that at all. I actually think that this could end up being a low-scoring game. Now, going to the Atlanta offense versus the Rams defense, right before that, I just wanted to mention that if the Falcons defense does have a weakness, it's actually covering the slot receiver. Cooper Kupp should have a good game in this one, and I would expect him to have at least a touchdown in this game because that's where you are to target in the red zone is Cooper Kupp, and the Rams do a really good job of opening him up for touchdowns. this season. So look out for Cooper Kupp in the red zone, and that is the weakness that I see with the Falcons defense is their slot corner is not very good, and they also do at times, we've seen in the past, that they have difficulties covering running backs out of the backfield. That's why I mentioned right off the top, how are they going to cover Gurley, because that's crucial. The next thing, Atlanta's offense versus the Rams defense. Like I said, Atlanta's offense has actually failed to top 25 points in 5 consecutive games. If they don't top 25 points in this game, they're going to be in trouble. The Rams, of course, are a potent offense. They put up the most points in the league, and that's not even just considering their offense. They also have a great special teams that's capable of taking it to the house at any point, so you have to consider that as well. For success for Atlanta, I think there's going to have to be a huge collective effort from their running backs, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman. I think they're both going to be needed against LA, and because LA's ground defense is not very good. It's sitting at 28th overall in the league. The Rams, have allowed yardage totals this season of 229 yards, 189 yards, 169 yards, and 171 yards twice. So to consider that, they are not very good on the defending the run. They're a very aggressive defensive line. They like to pass rush, but they're not very good against the run. So if Atlanta is going to be successful, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman are going to have huge games here. Mohamed Sanu should see a lot of targets in this game. Julio Jones is injured. He's playing, but he's still banged up. He always is banged up, but he's going to play. Also considering that Trumaine Johnson will be on Julio for pretty much the entire game. Trumaine Johnson is one of the most underrated corners in the league. He's been a beast all year, and I'd expect that to be a key matchup of the game. If Julio is healthier than I think, then that might be a big thing for Atlanta as well. And if he's able to get the upper hand on Trumaine Johnson, this could open up their offense, because Matt Ryan in the playoffs is going to go to Julio as many times as possible. The Falcons, if they do something well on offense, it's definitely their third down percentage. They are first in the NFL on third down. They're able to, run the ball effectively on first and second down, get themselves in good situations on third down, and it doesn't hurt to have a guy like Julio to pass the ball to on third down. So their offense is good on third down. Another thing just to be said, they need to bring that to the table, because they need to be able to move the chains. They need to be able to stay on the field and keep the Rams offense off the field in order to be successful. So that's going to be big, their third down percentage. And then I just think overall, the thing about the Rams defense, they have talented players. Obviously, they have probably the best defensive player in the league, Aaron Donald. They have Robert Quinn. They have LaMarcus Joyner. They have Trumaine Johnson. They have some good players. But the thing about the Rams that would scare me if I'm an Atlanta fan is Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips is probably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, and he has an extensive advantage, a huge advantage, over the offensive coordinator of Atlanta, Steve Sarkisian, who at times has, been okay, but at other times, I think he's the reason why this team is being held back offensively. We saw what Kyle Shanahan did with the same talent last year. They were a historic offense, and then all of a sudden you bring in Steve Sarkisian, and he's been just bad. Just not good outside of the third down offense, obviously. So I think Wade Phillips is just going to bring some things to this game where Atlanta has never seen this entire season, and that may be the advantage that the Rams need, especially at home on third down, 3rd and 8. Maybe there's going to be an exotic blitz that Phillips brings, and Matt Ryan sacked. So there's going to be some interesting play calls within the two offensive coordinators. And then just to mention an injury, Andy Levitre has been put on IR, the guard for Atlanta. That's never a good thing when you're facing Aaron Donald. They do have Alex Mack, who is probably the best center. He's probably one of the top 2 centers in the NFL. So that's going to be good for Aaron Donald. But Levitre is crucial as well. It's going to be interesting to see how Atlanta's offensive line plays as well. So a lot of interesting matchups, as I've talked about. And the last thing to mention about Atlanta's offense is they're not good in the red zone. They rank 23rd in the red zone this season. They need to be able to move the ball, which they've been able to do all season long. But they need to be able to put it in the end zone, because they're going to be playing the Rams, who are going to score. So that all being considered, Atlanta's offense versus Rams defense, Rams offense versus Rams defense, or Atlanta's defense, and then also considering that the Rams have the advantage in special teams and I would also give the advantage in coaching to the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think that the Rams' coaching advantage will trump the experience factor for Atlanta. I do think this game will be close. I think Atlanta will be competitive all the way to the end. I do think this is actually going to be a more defensive game than a lot of people see it. I think it's going to be somewhere between 24 to 27 to 20, maybe 24 to 16, something like that. I think the points range is going to be between 27 and 16. On the low, 16. On the high, 27. Probably my guess would be 24-20 for the Rams. And I think it's going to be a really good game. Look out for all these matchups in this game. Again, I have the Rams winning, advancing to play the Minnesota Vikings in the divisional round. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more NFL previews just like this. Peace out.